Hare Krishna, to all the devotees present here today. Um, I would like to thank everyone who organized this and for giving me the opportunity to speak and be able to serve the Vaishnava community. Um, you said in the introduction that a part about Sridhar Swami mentioning and giving me a benediction that I'll be a terror preacher one day. For now, I'm still only a terror. I still haven't become a preacher, but hopefully by pleasing the Vaishnavas and by getting the blessings, I can do so. Hare Krishna. So I would like to start with Mangala Charnam, and then we can go on with the verses for today. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Rupasya Sanatanasya Raghunathasya Bhatta Dvaya Sya Shri Jiva Prabhor Gurur Nikilago Ranganuganam Chatat Smritva Purna Kripa Balam Swabhilashan Satshotra Samsevanam Tvam Tyajasva Bhayam Manah Pravachana Rambhe Kata Badakam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So that last verse that I quoted just now, it's actually written by our very dear Hari Parshad Prabhu. And I find it very much inspiring to say that shloka today because while offering the Mangala Charnam, we have invocated the auspicious blessings of all our previous acharyas in our Guru Parampara. And at one point in the shloka, it says, Smritva Purana Kripa Balam, just by remembering the Purana Kripa Bala, or the complete strength of the mercy flowing from our previous acharyas, we are able to Satshotra Samsevanam, serve the devotees who have come to delight in Harikatha. So I'm telling my mind that Tvam Tyajasva, you please give up bhayam, fear, because it is an obstacle in rendering the service of speaking today. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Grantraj Srimad Bhagwatam ki jai. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagwatam, 5th canto, 8th chapter, verses 2 to 5. That's right. And the name of the chapter is a description of the character of Bharat Maharaj. So these particular shlokas are not in a meter, so I will just go ahead with reading the translations, and then we can continue our discussion. So shloka number 2, translation. O king, while Bharat Maharaj was sitting on the bank of that river, A doe, being very thirsty, came there to drink. Text number 3. While the doe was drinking with great satisfaction, a lion, which was very close, roared very loudly. This was frightful to every living entity, and it was heard by the doe. Text number 4. By nature, the doe was afraid of being killed by others, and it was always looking about suspiciously. When it heard the lion's tumultuous roar, it became very agitated. Looking here and there with disturbed eyes, the doe, although it had not fully satisfied itself by drinking water, suddenly leaped across the river. Text 5. The doe was pregnant, and when it jumped out of fear, the baby deer fell from its womb into the flowing waters of the river. And Srila Prabhupada has given a very short purport here. We'll read his purport. There is every chance of a woman's having a miscarriage if she experiences some ecstatic emotion or is frightened. Pregnant women should therefore be spared all these external influences. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantraj Srimad Bhagwatam ki jai. So I would like to start our discussion today by just saying something that was mentioned by Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami quotes this very beautiful shloka where he says, Paramananda Pathaya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. He's talking about the Srimad Bhagwatam, where he says that it is Paramananda Pathaya, it is that literature which gives the most transcendental form of bliss. And Prema Varshaksharayate, that each word is raining with prema. It's literally drizzling or it's pouring rain, prema on top of us. And Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, and all of us must constantly Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, we should serve Shri Krishnaya Namostame, that this Bhagwatam, which is Lord Krishna himself. So it's a very sweet verse to start on. And it also very much implies with the principles of this group, Bhakti Sangha Japa conference, because from what I heard and what I'm seeing is that you all have 2 programs a day, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you all are doing Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya, and that is what is recommended for us. So Hare Krishna. So this chapter of 5th canto of Srimad Bhagwatam, it really shows us the reversals that devotees sometimes face in Krishna consciousness. We very well know how yesterday Akinchana Krishna Prabhu was explaining how Bharat Maharaj was actually very focused on Krishna himself. He was the son of Rishabdev, and he was a man of principle, so much so that he followed every Vedic ritual, just like it was prescribed. He was a man of true dharma, and although sometimes for a devotee of Krishna, Vedic rituals are not fully recommended, but even while performing yagyas, we offer ahuti or oblations to the different demigods like Indra, Varuna, Pavandev. Even while doing so, he would think that, oh, I'm actually just offering this to the different body parts of Krishna. So such was the mentality, the consciousness that Bharat Maharaj had. And it kind of leaves us in a bit of a frenzy that how do we understand that Bharat Maharaj's quote unquote fall down? Because he was so fixed in this in Krishna consciousness. So how do we explain this? So yesterday, while I was trying to prepare something, I came across a quote of Vishvanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he comments on the start of this chapter. I will quote. He says, the 8th chapter describes how Bharat raised a fawn and meditating on it, attained the body of a deer in his next life. Kanaya, an ocean of cleverness, protected this deer who was previously Bharata to show that compassion, if it is an obstacle to bhakti, must be given up. The Lord shows, now this is my favorite part, He says, the Lord shows his affection for his devotee by protecting Bharata in the form of a deer so that he would fall in the ocean of remorse in order to drown in the ocean of prema, unquote. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. So from this commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, we can understand 2 points. One point is that if compassion is an obstacle in our devotional service, it should be given up. A drowning man cannot save another drowning man. So a person, if he's not himself strong enough, he doesn't have the willpower and the ability, he's unable to do so for other devotees as well. It's explained in the Srimad Bhagwatam, our condition. It says, Kala karma gunadhino dehoyam panchabhautika katham manyamstu gopayat sarpagrasta yathaparam. It says that this body of ours, which is made out of 5 different material substances, is under kala, which is time, karma, which is our activities which we have accumulated over many lifetimes, and guna, or the 3 modes of material nature. Is the deadly trio that we're under. And while we're under this, that katham anyams to gopayat, how can we go and save somebody else when sarpa grasta yathaparam, when we ourselves are tightly bound by the snake, which is the kala, karma, and guna. So it's a very interesting analogy that has been given in the Srimad Bhagwatam. But we must understand that these things of that compassion, if it comes in the way, must be given up. First, we must protect ourselves. It's not selfish. It's if we take care of ourselves, well, then we can give. So that's a simple principle that was mentioned here. And we can understand another thing, that Krishna is actually teaching us through Bharat Maharaj. Because Bharat Maharaj happens to be, like we discussed, a personality who's so fixed in Krishna consciousness. So how can we explain his fall down? And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur very clearly mentioned that Krishna puts him in an ocean of remorse first, so that he can later drown him in the ocean of prema. So that's the mercy of the Lord towards Bharat Maharaj and also towards us, because we learn from his example that even a simple, my spiritual master quotes this in a really funny way, a very teensy material desire can get us stuck in this material world. And that's what was shown by the example of Bharat Maharaj. It says in the Srimad Bhagwatam that Labdha sudurlabhamidam bahusambhavante manusyamarthadamanityamapi hadhiraha turnamyatetanapateta nishreyasaya vishaya khalu sarvatah syat. It says that labdha sudurlabham, that we have attained something which is so rare, that to bahusambhavante, after many, many lifetimes. What is this thing? It's manushyam, we've attained the human form of life. And it's arthadam, is the giver of all the purusharthas, the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and the prema purushartha, which according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, prema pumartho mahan, it's the highest purushartha. So we can achieve this by this human form of life, but there's some conditions that this human form of life, we don't have so much time. It's anityam. That's why a sober person, turnam yateta, immediately acts upon this before anumrityu yavam, death comes upon him. Because by this human form of life, we can achieve that ultimate liberation, that nishreyasaya, and any other sort of sense gratification for our material senses is available in all sorts of different living entities. Vishayaha khalu sarvatah syat. So we should learn from these different examples that are mentioned in the Srimad Bhagwatam. And we can say that Bharat Maharaj took one for the team. You know, the heart of a Vaishnava is that he doesn't mind to undergo suffering, but he will make sure that the devotees of Krishna, or who he can benefit, like who he can be the benefactor of, will get the highest liberation, highest highest goal. Yes. So, but we can be very honest that these material desires are very deep rooted in our hearts. And just like anything deep rooted, like we see in our garden, we need to be gardeners and we need to remove these weeds that are present. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it mentions Mali Hana Kare Se Bija Aropana Shravana Kirtana Jale Karaye Seichana. It says that we have to be gardeners, we have to be malis, and first off, we have to remove the weeds. But the main thing is also that we need to water this Bhakti Lata Bij that is present in our hearts. And the process to do that, the water to nourish it, is Shravanam and Kirtanam. And we understand that these two limbs of bhakti, amongst the 9 limbs, are very integral. So much so that it's a very key part of our movement today. Srila Prabhupada has given us our whole day basically circulates around Shravanam and Kirtanam. And it nourishes the rest of the limbs of Krishna Bhakti. But one thing is for sure, that for our kirtan to be strong, Shravanam helps a lot. Shravanam really helps our kirtan to be strong. So what I'm going to do here is that I'll speak a little bit first about kirtan, and then eventually we will come and talk about Shravanam. So we hear in the Srimad Bhagwatam the very famous shloka, how Sukadeva Goswami is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, and he tells him that Kaler dosha nidhe rajan yasti eko mahan guna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangam param vrajet, that this material world, this Kali Yuga especially, is an ocean of faults. But there's only one good quality, which is the chanting of the name of Krishna. And that can give us mukti, mukta sangam param vrajet, from this material world. But let's analyze the situation that we're in currently. It says that we are in this ocean of faults. And to be in this ocean is not the most pleasant thing. If we look at it, when we're at the beach, it's a different thing to look at the ocean from the shore. It's very relaxing. But imagine yourself being in the middle of the ocean. It's a very difficult position to be because you're being turned and tossed and like smashed by these massive waves. And it's very difficult. There's so many different creatures there. It's not a safe place to be. And Vishvanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives this description very clearly in his Vrinda Devi Ashtakam, where he says in the last verse, Bhaktya vihina aparadha lakshay shiptascha kamaditarangamadye kripamai tvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charanara vrindam. He's describing it very vividly. He says that our condition here is that we're bhaktya vihina, we're devoid of devotion. And our only propensity is aparadha lakshay. And shiptascha kamadi taranga. We're being hit and turned and tossed by the waves of lust, anger, greed, jealousy. It's not fun. And he's calling out to Vrinda Devi that please be merciful upon me and get me out of here. So we need to be able to call out to someone. We understand that sometimes we see that there's a tragedy at sea, and there's some people in the sea who are panicking, whereas there's another person who's comparatively way more cooler and calmer. Why is that? Because he's already called for backup. They called the radio tower and, sir, please, these are our longitudes, these are our latitudes, please send us some help. And then the helicopter arrives and it throws the ladder down, and everyone's rescued. So we need this helicopter of Krishna's mercy to come and save us. And it can save us from the samsara, of course, through the medium of chanting, which has so lovingly been given to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But why only from the samsara? Why not even while we're in the samsara? It can nourish, because right now our hearts are also like salty oceans. But we need to get out of this bhavasagar and go into the bhakti rasamrita sindhu, the ocean of devotion. And and of course, there's many different ways in which we can take protection from the Lord by his name, through listening, through his devotees. And it's said that even when Vyasadeva was discussing with Narada Muni, Narada Muni was telling him that, why have you written so many Vedic books? You should just write something that nourishes the heart, which is related to Krishna. And he tells him that etat samsuchitam brahmans tapatraya chikitsitam yad ishvare bhagavati karma brahmani bhavitam. That the etat samsuchitam brahmans, it's been taught by the learned sages, the experienced sages like Narada, that tapatraya chikitsitam, the remedy from this material world of tapatraya, is that um, Yad Ishvare Bhagavati, we serve the Lord, and Karma Brahmani Bhavitam, we dedicate all our activities to Krishna. There are some activities which are naturally spiritual, and even other activities like going to work, etc. All these things can be dedicated to Krishna. And we see that a person who is successful to do so is not affected by the material nature, even while he's in this world. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Etan gunan atityatri dehi deha samudbhava janma mrityu jara dukkhair vimuktam amritam ashmiti, that even in this world you can taste amrita. And it also stated in the Srimad Bhagwatam that etad ishanamishasya prakriti stopi tadgunair na yujyate sadatmaster yatha buddhis tadashraya. It says that just like the Lord, he comes and he interacts with the material energies, but is not affected by it. Similarly, the devotee, Sadatma, Yatha Buddhist Tadashraya, his mind, his consciousness is fully dedicated in the Lord. So neither even he is not affected by the material energy. And we've seen so many personalities who have surrendered to Krishna and surrendered to his name via prayers. Like we've heard of Gajendra, how Gajendra's prayers were so much from the heart by a remembrance from his past life that Vishnu actually jumped from his seat without wearing his shoes. And Garuda had to catch up with him because Vishnu was so attracted, and he had to just jump upon the opportunity to go and save his devotee that he just left. And this was out of love. What about out of a person who just did it out of Sanketya, or just out of calling out to the name of his son? A Jamil story. He just called out to his son, but just out of addressing his son, because it was in such a moment of intensity at the time of death, the Yamadutas are taking him away. The Vishnu Dutas came. So we have to practice to be able to take Krishna's name in such a way, to call out to Krishna. Gaur Govinda Maharaj always used to say that we need to cry, cry, cry for Krishna. And we hear so many more people, like even Draupadi. Draupadi is, she was a very, very intent, very, very dear devotee of the Lord. And we know the atrocities that she went through. She was brought in open court when the gambling match, and the Shasan was pulling her hair, trying to pull her sari off. And she went to ask for help from everyone. First, they were slaves now, so they couldn't even raise a finger. They couldn't even look at her because they were so ashamed. Then she went to Bhishmadev. And Bhishmadev, in a different instance, when Yudhishthir Maharaj had come to him to ask for help in the battle, out of formality, of course, Bhishmadev told him that Artasya Purusho Daso Dasasya Artho na Kasyachit Iti Satyam Maharaja Baddho Myarthena Kauravaihi. That Arthasya Purusho Daso, the human beings are the slaves of money. And dasa sirtho na kasyachid. And nobody is money is not a servant of anybody. And this is the truth, O King Yudhishthir. And in such a manner, I am bonded with the Kauravas. So even in this situation, although he knew this was such atrocity happening, he couldn't raise a finger. He couldn't even he couldn't look at Draupadi. And the same way she went to Dronacharya, she went to Kripacharya, nobody could help. She went to Dhritarashtra, the king. The king is supposed to help his praja. Praja includes even the animals. So what to speak of a woman who's being raped in broad daylight? But Dhritarashtra was blinded not only by birth, but also by Pitramoha, or too much attachment to his son. And the Bhagavatam states how sometimes people feel very uplifted by this sentiment. It says, Atma Jaya Sutagara Pashu Dravina Bandhusu Nirudha Mula Hridaya Atmanam Bahumanyate. That a person thinks as Atma, the self, Jaya, the wife, Suta, the son, Agara, the house, Pashu, animals, Dravina, wealth, and Bandhushu, even friends. All these things have Nirudha Mula Hridaya. They are so deep rooted in the heart that it makes you feel that Atmanam Bahumanyate. You feel very great and accomplished, although it's all an illusion. So, Draupadi was left anatha. She was left orphaned. The word for orphan in Sanskrit is anatha. But that's a blessing, actually. It's a blessing to be anatha or orphan in this world so that you can connect with anatha, to Krishna, who's Srinath, who's Gopinath. If you get anath in this world, orphaned, but you can get anath in the spiritual world, then your life is successful. So Draupadi, in such a sweet way, she called out to Krishna, and it's very eloquently said by Bilva Mangal Thakur. He says, Agre kuruna mata pandavanam Tushasanena ritavastrakesham Krishna tadakrosha ananyanatha Govinda damodara madhaveti. It says that just in front of the Kurus, Agre Kuruna and the Pandavas, Dushasanena ritavastrakesham. Dushasan's pulling her hair and her clothes. And Krishna, Draupadi was dark in color, her skin. So she's addressed to Krishna, or someone with a dark complexion. So Krishna, Tadakrosha, she yelled out, she screamed with all intensity. Ananyanata, who had no other master. Such a blessing. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. So we need to appreciate this position we are in. We have to make the best of a bad bargain, they say. And to be in the material world is actually quite a good deal, because the only surrender we can do is not to these material objects, but it's actually to Krishna. Because technically, no one here is here to help you other than your spiritual master and Krishna. So we understand that the way you reciprocate with Krishna, Krishna reciprocates with you. He says very clearly, as one loves me, accordingly, I love them. But we still hear sometimes, right, from some devotees that, oh, why is Krishna not helping me? I have been chanting for so long. I've been doing so many things, but Krishna's not yet reached out to me, or I can't feel that topmost love that we always glorify. And there's another devotee poet that Rupa Goswami has mentioned in the Padyavali. His name is Sri Autkala. He mentions a similar shloka, of course, from a more self-realized point of view. He says, Ya Draupadi Paritrane, Ya Gajendrasya Mokshane, May Arte Karunamurte Satvara Kvagatahare. He's saying that, oh Krishna, you had so much speed, Satvara. You had such speed when you came to save Draupadi, when you came to liberate Gajendra, But when I'm going through difficulties, my arte karunamurte, satvara kvagata hare, where has the speed gone now that I'm suffering all these things? But we need to understand that their call for Krishna was very pure. It was very unadulterated. They truly desired the blessings of Krishna, and their dependency on Krishna was complete. And another thing is that our our hearts are still very dirty. So although we want that goal, because of all these anartas in our heart, this dirt in our heart, we're unable to experience that topmost jewel. Uh, and a lot of that also relates to around how we have still not accepted or acknowledged Krishna's presence in our hearts. Like they say, it's one thing to know that you're not this body, and it's another thing to realize that you're not this body. So it's one thing to know that Krishna is our only savior and that we are depending on him, but it's another thing to do it completely. And it's interesting how we hear that there's two birds sitting in the heart, right? Dvasuparanam sayujas sukhaya samanyam drishtam parishashrajate tayoranyam pipalam swadvati anashnamanyo bichakashiti. That there's two birds seated in the heart. One bird is busy eating the fruits of the material tree, and while the other one's just waiting for him to turn towards him. So technically, although we hear and we say these things to ourselves, but we're busy chewing on these material attachments of ours, these fruits, so-called fruits. And let's put it into perspective. You know, our spiritual master is the most important person for us in our lives. He has given us Krishna Bhakti, he's given us the holy name, Vrindavan Dham. And if he is going to come to your house, ask yourself, how much preparation would you do? You know, we would clean every corner of the house, set up a beautiful Vyasasan, make garlands, make food preparations, just clean the floors, everything, set up flowers everywhere. And when the Guru comes, we put these garlands, we take good care of him. Why aren't we doing the same thing for Krishna? Because Krishna comes. He is actually already in our heart, you know, and we're not giving him the same treatment that we should give him. It says in the Srimad Bhagwatam how Shrinvata Shradaya Nityam Granatascha Sucheshtitam Kalena Nati Dirgena Bhagavan Vishatayaridi, that by hearing and chanting, the Lord very soon he enters into the heart of the devotee. And Pravishta Karana Randena Swanam Bhava Sharoruham Dhunoti Samalam Krishna Shali Lasya Yathasharat. That Krishna, he sits on the lotus-like consciousness of our heart, and what does he do? He cleans it himself. He's cleaning it himself. Like imagine if I invited one of you, I said, please come over for prasadam, and while you're at it, please could you clean my house? It's very contradictory to the etiquette or just how we would take care of someone. It's not right. So why do we do this to Krishna? But I have to say, I might be saying these things, but I personally haven't put it into practice. And let's be honest, it's very difficult, you know, because Prabhupada said Krishna consciousness is easy, but it's not cheap. You know, it's simple processes, but we need to do it with all our heart, all our consciousness. And sometimes we need help. You know, it's not possible alone. That's why it brings us back to Shravanam. Kirtanam is very important, but the energy, the juice that we get for Kirtanam is through Shravanam. And we know how there's so many great personalities who we hear from, our spiritual master, our temple presidents, or different members in our community who speak really well. And nowadays, I mean, ISKCON has truly become international in the sense that we can all interact with each other more easily than ever before. Like I sit in Mumbai and I can hear classes from America, from such wonderful devotees there, or I can hear classes in Russia, I can hear classes from South Africa, so it's become very easy to hear from people now. And we should be able to open our hearts to these personalities. Because Krishna says, right, in Bhagavad Gita, the very famous shloka, how tadviddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. That when we interact with these tattvadarshis by service and other means, they give us this knowledge because they've seen the truth. They're able to do that. And giving knowledge is one aspect, but they also tell us how to get rid of these other things. That's part of the knowledge, you know? So to really emphasize on this quality of opening the heart, I would like to mention two very beautiful realizations from the Srimad Bhagwatam. And if any devotee was falling asleep because of my crow-like speech, I promise you that this is a very good section of the class. So we all know, because of the blessings of His Grace Hari Prabhu, we've been exposed to Hari Suri, the devotee poet. And he's such a Rasika Bhakta, and that just on two words from the Srimad Bhagwatam, Margam Dadayati, he's come up with so many realizations. And today I will mention two of those realizations. So this word, these two words, Margam Dadayati, it was mentioned it was mentioned in context to when Vasudeva comes with Krishna on his head, and they need to cross over Yamuna to go to Gokul. So Yamuna Margam Dadayati, she splits and gives way for them to go through. So Hari Suri expresses the emotion and what was going on in the heart of Yamuna and in the mind of Yamuna. So it's as follows. It says, Loke dayalum avalokya param tadagre dukhi vidirna ridayo bhavatiti Krishna svantasta kali abhava vyasana niriksha Krishnam vidirna ridaya kimabhutta dasa. It's so beautifully said. It says that loke dayalum avalokya, that even in this world, in this loka, dayalum avalokya, when we see a very merciful and a very compassionate person approaching us, what do we do? Dukhi, the sad person, the person who has some misery, some kind of problems, vidirna ridaya, he completely opens up his heart to this dayalu person, this compassionate person. So similarly, Krishna, again, the same word Krishna has been used for Yamuna because she's also dark colored. And it's saying that Krishna, Dukhi Vidirna Ridaya Bhavatiti Krishna Swantastakaliya Bhava Vyasana Niriksha. So she opened her heart, Swa Antasta, she showed it, where Kaliya Bhava, Kaliya is residing. And Kaliya represents the millions of anarthas that we have. We know that the pure water of Yamuna was polluted and made poisonous by the presence of Kaliya. So she showed Krishna, Swahantasta Kaliya Bhava Vyasananiriksha Krishnam Vidirna Hridaya. She showed her full heart to Krishna. Kimabhutta dasa. Do you think anything else would have happened? So such a beautiful realization by Hari Suri that Yamuna, she knows her condition. You have to be honest with yourself that I have this Kaliya Bhava. I have these dirty anarthas in my heart. And when we see this Dayalu person like Krishna and our spiritual master, we need to open up our heart. Please, look, this is what's happening within me. Help me. So she did this to Krishna. And we know how later on she kept rising, trying to touch the foot of Krishna, the feet of Krishna. And there's another realization that Hari Suri mentions here. He says, Yan megha jivanamidam bhuvipurvamasi dadyachutasya padadarshanatah prayatam ityapaga kimutada vishadantaranga shobham adarshayadasau dvijarajalokam. Very beautiful shloka. He says that yan megha jivanam, that this life of mine, this jivana, is dependent on the megha or the clouds. Like out here, last couple of days in India, it's been pouring so heavily, very, very intense rain. Somehow we're lucky it's not raining right now, otherwise you would just be able to hear the rain on the roof. But so Yamuna is also saying that yan megha jivanam, that my life is dependent on the clouds. But Hari Suri, he doesn't put everything so straight and simple. So he's hiding something there. He breaks it down. He says, yan me, this my agha jivan, sinful life. So he says, my this sinful life, but bhuvi purvamasi, it was not like that before. But today I have some hope. Dadyachutasya padadarshanatah prayatam. By seeing Achyuta, the infallible Lord, coming today by his lotus feet, I know that all these sins will go away. All these sins will go away. Like we even hear from in the Srimad Bhagwatam, Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam Asheshagam Haram Vidhu, that just by taking the name of Krishna, which is from Vaikuntha, Golokera Premadhana, Harinama Sankirtana, all these sins are very easily removed. So similarly, Yamuna knows these Siddhantas, and she's saying that, oh, Krishna is coming today, so I know my life will be very blissful henceforth. So what did she do? Ityapaga kimutada vishadantaranga shobhamadarshayadasa. That the river split into two, and vishadantaranga, she showed her complete inside of her heart, where Kalia is there, his wives are there, the poison, the fumes, everything's coming out. And shobhamadarshayadasa. She also showed one more thing, her shobha, her glory towards performing bhakti, or her, in more understanding terms, her glory or her desire to actually perform bhakti. So she showed her Shobhama Darshayadaso. And who did she show it to? Dvijaraj Lokan. Now, this is slightly technical. So please, if you could just hear these two meanings of the word Dvijaraj Lokan. So we understand that Dvijaraj is, first off, Dvijaraj is the moon god. He's the one who provides somaras to the Brahmanas. So he's known as Dvijaraj. And Krishna comes in the dynasty of the moon god, Yaduvanshi. So he is Dvijaraj Lokan. So himself, Vasudeva and Balaram, they're all Dvijaraj Lokan. So this is the first meaning. The second meaning of Dvijaraj, we understand that Dvijas are of three types in the Varna. They are the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas. And amongst them, the Raj or the king is the Brahmanas. So the two meanings are, one is the Yaduvanshis, Krishna, Vasudeva, and Balaram. And another meaning is the Brahmanas. So Yamuna showed her Vishada Antaranga and her Shobha, her glory of her devotion or her desire, to the Dvijaraja Lokan, to Krishna and to Vasudeva and Balaram, who was like Anantashesh in the back of Krishna. She showed her hearts to them. And similarly, how do we take this for ourselves? That we go and just dissect our hearts in front of the deities? No, we approach Dvijaraja Lokan, which is the Brahmanas. And the Brahmanas for us are our gurus, our leaders today, who are guiding us because they're speaking Brahma Vakya. They're speaking the language of the Brahmanas, and even higher, because they're speaking about pure bhakti. So if we open up our hearts to them, all the Kaliya like poison will immediately start to come out. And trust me, Srila Prabhupada said that surrender takes only 1 minute. So if we surrender to these great personalities, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, everything gets cleansed so much easily. So we should understand that our efforts are very important, 100%. But we're more dependent on the blessings of these great personalities. Krishna just tells us to do one thing, right? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. That we just have to bhajatam priti purvakam. We have to do our devotional service in a happy manner. And he does dadami buddhi yogam tam. He gives you the buddhi, the intelligence which yena mam upayantite. You can attain him. So this it's very sweet because it's interesting that even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa Goswami, he told him that you should go and write Siddhanta, devotional Siddhanta, but in Vrindavan. He was having this conversation in Varanasi, but he said, you should go to Vrindavan because anything in Vrindavan becomes sweet. How many times do we read philosophy and we're like, sometimes it's too much. Like, oh, please give me some very like rusic pastime of Krishna and the coward boys, the Krishna and the gopis. And when we try to really understand those pastimes, we need to have the Siddhanta. But when we're studying the Siddhanta, we're like, oh God. But that Siddhanta, when it comes into Vrindavan, it becomes very sweet. That dry mellow becomes like wet out of prema. So such is the effect of Vrindavan Dham. And like I was saying, that these great personalities are so important in our life. I remember one conversation of my spiritual master with my father. My father's on this call as well right now, and I'm sure he can approve this, that we were traveling in the car one day. Srila Gurudev was sitting in the front, my father was sitting right behind him, and Bada Haripur was sitting next to him, and I was sitting in the back seat. And my father was really ecstatic that day. He was saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Like really, it's called machine gun japa. You know, we are, I agree, we're at war with Maya, but we don't need to bring this kind of a machine gun into play. And I remember Srila Gurudev, he mentioned to my father, he said, what are you doing, Narottam? This is not chanting. He said, Shanai Shanai Suvi Pashtam, Na Drutam Na Vilambitam, Na Nyunam Nadhikam Vyapi Japam Kuryat Dine Dine. He said, Shanai Shanai Suvi Pashtam. We need to chant slowly, slowly, and Suvi Pashta, where we can hear our pronunciation clearly. It's not that we're saying Kish Kish Ram Ram, it's Krishna, Rama, and of course, Hare. We have to very, very clear and crisp pronunciation. And na drutam na vilambitam. Neither too slow nor too fast. Some people, I mean, they end up chanting like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's good for some meditative mantras, but for chanting, you can have a little bit of like a middle pace. We're not too extreme. So Shanai Shanai Suvi Pashtam Na Drutam Na Vilambitam Na Nyunam Nadhikam Vyapi. Neither too little japa, nor too much. Na Adhikam. It comes to a surprise that not even too much japa. Aren't we supposed to chant 192 rounds like Haridas Thakur? But it's what has been prescribed to you by your spiritual master. And for us, Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, has very lovingly given us these 16 rounds because he understands that the Kali Yuga is going to get more and more difficult. But if we stick to the simple 16 rounds, then our heart will be content. And it's enough. So, na nyunam nadikam vyapi japam kuryat dine dine. In such a manner, you can perform japa. So Srila Gurudev instructed my father like that. And today, he's chanting very peacefully, very slowly, very punctually. And it's improved. His japa has improved. In fact, Srila Gurudev himself tells him nowadays, Narottam, you've become you're always chanting, you know? So this is the glory of a great personality in our lives, because when they say something, it touches the heart. It immediately touches the heart. Our duty is simply to open the heart. Open the heart. They're always benefiting all living entities. Suradam sarva bhutanam. Every living entity, they are suited, or they want to do good for them with no ulterior motives. And they want to give them that. So we should just open our hearts. We have a simple task here to just accept the mercy. We're never a product of our own activities. And of course, the holy name is the medium by which we can do that. It's actually the only medium by which we can do that. I could see before the call, I was with you guys for about 10 minutes, and everyone was quite enthusiastic in their chanting. And this is an everyday thing. So if we stick to this, it would be so lovely, you know. And when that ruchi develops in our heart towards the holy name, ah, Rupa Goswami says how he's desiring so many mouths and he's desiring so many ears to keep hearing and chanting this holy name. And this holy name is truly so sweet. It said that Madhura Madhuram etan Mangalam Mangalanam Sakala Nigamavalli Satfalam Chitswarupam Sakradapi Parigitam Shraddhaya Helayava Bhriguvaranamatram Tarayet Krishna Nama. That this holy name is Madhura Madhuram, is the most sweet of all sweet things. And Mangalam Mangalanam, it's the most auspicious of all auspicious things. And Sakala Nigamavalli Satphalam Chitsvarupam, it's the highest fruit on this transcendental tree. And Sakradapi Parigitam, if just once takes the name, Shraddhaya, either with faith or Hilayava, even with neglect. Bhriguvaranamatram Tarayet Krishna Nama. This holy name, it delivers that person. So we really need to try and hear so much glorification, even of the holy name, so that we can go deeper. And like I said, we can hear from these great personalities. And actually today I would like to conclude by mentioning one beautiful shloka, which has been glorified in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it has been commented upon by the son of Lord Nityananda, Virabhadra. So the shloka is from, if anybody would like to take a note of it, it's from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 15th chapter, shloka number 110. It goes like this. Akrishti krita chetasam sumanasam uchatanam cham hasam achandala mamukaloka sulabho vashyascha mukti shriya no diksham na cha satkriya na cha puras charyam managikshate mantroyam rasana sprigeva falati Shri Krishna namatmaka. It's a very, very beautiful shloka. And I will try and break down these words, and hopefully this can inspire all of us, including myself, because even to hear these things again and again, it just makes you want to love the holy name more. So it goes like this. It says, Akrishti Krita Chetasam, that first off, Akrishti, it attracts those people, Krita Chetasam Sumanasam, those saintly people and those gyanis. You know, gyanis are so fixed in their knowledge, they have no material desires, but it even attracts them. And we know, so we've heard how even Sukadev Goswami, when he was born, he immediately grew up and he went in the forest. Complete renunciation, nothing to do with this material world. But Vyasadeva sent his disciples who recited 2 shlokas in front of him. One was describing how Krishna gave the position of a mother to Putana, who smeared her breasts with poison and tried to kill him, explaining the mercy of the Lord, the compassion of the Lord. And another shloka describing the beauty of the Lord. Barha pidam natavaravapu karnayo karnikaram bibradvasam kanakakapisham vaijayantim chamala randhran venu radhara sudaya purayan gopa vrindai vrindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishad gita kirti. It says very beautifully That Barhapidam, Krishna is wearing the peacock feather. Natavaravapu, he's got the body like shape of a dancer. You know, dancers have such an agile body, very fit and perfect limbs and everything. Krishna, he's the greatest dancer, of course, after Srimati Radharani. But um, Natavaravapu, he has got a body of the dancer. And Karanayo Karanikaram, he's got the yellow flower, Karnika flower, on his ears. And Bibrat Vasam Kanaka Kapisham, he's wearing a yellow colored dhoti. And Vaijayantim Chumala, he's wearing a garland with 5 different flowers coming all the way up to his knees. And Randran Venur Adhara Sudaya, the flute, the holes of the flute are covered with the nectar pouring from his lips and his fingers. And Purayan Gopa Vrindai Vrindaranyam Swapadaramanam, the he's entering into the forest of Vrindavan, which is decorated with his own footprints. And all the Gopas, Gopa Vrindai, Pravishad Gita Kirtihi, they're singing his glories while doing so. So when he heard this, his heart melted and he's like, I want to know more. Please take me. I want to know more. So he came and he learned the Srimad Bhagwatam after that. So the holy name, Akrishti, it has all these shlokas are in the holy name. The Chaitanya Charitamrita very eloquently says that Krishnera Samagra Lila Name Vidyamana Nama Se Parama Tattva Tomara Vidhana, that all of Krishna's pastimes are established or are present in the holy name. And Nama Se Parama Tattva, there's no tattva higher than the holy name. Tomara Vidhana, this is the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's no tattva higher than the holy name. So, Akrishti Kritachetasam Sumanasam, it attracted those hard-hearted people towards the material world and anything else, fully fixed in Gyan. It attracts them. And Uchatanam Cham Hasam, it also gives them a new form of bliss because these Gyanis, they destroy all their previous karma. It's called Sanchita karma. But their prarabdha karma, which they have to undergo in their particular life, is not destroyed. So they need to experience that, the Gyanis do. And it's said in Rupa Goswami's Namashtakam that Yad Brahma Sakshat Kriti Nishthayapi Vinashamayati Vinana Bhogaye Apaiti Nama Sfuranena Tatte Prarabdha Karmeti Virauti Vedaha. That Yad Brahma Sakshat Kriti Nishthayapi, those people who are very fixed in Brahma, in the impersonal effulgence of the Lord, Vinasha Mayati Vinana Bhoga, their sins don't get destroyed without bhoga, without accepting them. They have to go through it. But apaiti, immediately it is destroyed. Sfuranena tatte, just by chanting of the names of Krishna, what gets destroyed? The prarabdha karma, virauti veda. The Vedas are crying this glorification of the holy name. So this was the first line. Then it says, Achandalam Amuka, that even from a dog eater to a Amuka. Amuka is a person who cannot speak. Amuka is a person who can speak. So the qualification to chant is that there's you don't need any qualification. Even a dog eater can chant, and simply if you have anything like if you can speak, then you can chant. So Achandalam Amuka Loka Sulabho, very easily they attain this. But although there's no big qualification, and although it's so easily attained, and although Vashyas, it's also controlled, that you can just think about these syllables of the holy name and it appears in your tongue. So although it can be even controlled, but it's not cheap. It gives you mukti shriya, it gives you that transcendental mukti, which is so rare to be found. It's the highest gift that anybody can achieve. So that's the glorification. You don't need any qualification, but you're getting the best thing. That's like the complete opposite of the material world. You need to be qualified to do anything nowadays. You need I understand, but it's difficult. Yeah. So Vashyascha Mukti Shriya and no diksham nacha satkriyam nacha puras charyam managikshate. It says that even to chant the holy name, you don't need diksha. You don't need satkriya, or good qualities, good activities that you perform, or purascharya, even like simple different Vedic principles like performing oblations before chanting mantra or feeding the brahmanas. These are different types of purascharya. You don't need to do any of these activities before chanting. Just mantroyam rasanasprigeva. If that mantra simply falls on the tip of your tongue, you get the phala. Mantroyam rasanasprigeva phalati. And in the previous line, I mentioned that you don't even need diksha, but this is not contradictory in the sense that the phala that's being mentioned here is that you be inspired to take diksha. You will automatically develop satkriya. You will automatically do even purascharya if needed. Holy name and getting diksha go hand in hand. The guru inspires you to chant, and the holy name inspires you to take a guru. So it's a very beautiful relationship. So this is the phala of chanting the holy name. And what is this holy name that we have? Shri Krishna Namatmakaha. This is my favorite part of the shloka. If you haven't loved it already, you will love it even more now. It says that, just imagine chanting the name of Krishna, that Krishna Namatmaka, that holy name or that mantra, the Atma is Krishna himself, and Krishna is, Krishna, we understand that he's so great. He's Savasacham Riddhishanivishto, he's seated in everyone's heart. His magnanimity is expressed, but he's nothing without Srimati Radharani. It says, Radha Purana Shakti, Krishna Purana Shakti Man, Dui Vastu Vedanai Shastra Paraman. That Radha is the energy of Krishna. And we understand that the energized person is nothing without the energy. Like, I might have the ability to lift something, but if I don't have the energy, I'm useless. So it's safe to say that Krishna, he's a little, you can say, handicapped without the help of Srimati Radharani. And this holy name that we have is Shri Krishna Namatmaka. Shri stands for Srimati Radharani. And in the Brahma Vaivarta Puran, we hear the glories of chanting Srimati Radharani's name. Lord Shiva is talking to Durga. He's telling her that Rashabdot Charanad Bhakto Rati Muktim Sudurlabham Dha Shabdot Charanad Durge Dhavatyeva Harehe Padam. That one who simply chants the syllable Ra, Rati Muktim Sudurlabham, he attains mukti, which is so rare. And Dha Shabdot Charanad Durge, he's telling Durga Devi that when a person chants Dha, Dhavatyeva Harehe Padam, that person dhavat, or he runs to the lotus feet of Krishna. So you know how in school, on sports day, they would make us, we would have our races, and they would do, on your mark, get set, go, and then we start running. For us, if we want to run to Krishna, all we need to say is Ra, Dha, and we dhavat, we run towards Krishna. And then there's another glorification of Radhanam. Krishna says this himself. He says, Ra Shabda Kurvatas Trashto Dadami Bhakti Muttamam Dha Shabda Kurvatas Paschat Yami Shravana Lobataha. That Ra Shabda Kurvatas Trashto, that a person who says Ra again, Dadami Bhaktim Uttamam, Krishna gives him Uttama Bhakti, the topmost form of devotional service. And Dha Shabda Kurvatas Paschat, and a person who says Dha after that, Yami Shravana Lobataha, Krishna runs behind that devotee to hear Radhana more and more and more. So let's connect these two shlokas, dear devotees. We are saying Radha, and we are doing Dhavatyeva Harehe Padam. And from here, when we say Radha, Krishna is coming, Yami Shravana Lobataha, and we both meet in the middle by the mercy of Sri Radha. Such is the mercy of Sri Radha. That's why it's so important to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And so much so that her name, Hare, is more in the Maha Mantra. Even when we say Rama, according to Gaudiyas, it says Rakara Srimati Radha Makara Madhusudano Dvaya Vigraha Samyogat Rama Nama Iti Kila. That Rakara, the Ra stands for Radha and Ma stands for Madhusudan. So Rama means Radha Madhusudan. So it's so sweet that Radha's fully, like she's like meshed completely into everything we do. So dear devotees, I don't know. I think I might have, I'm probably almost up with my time here, but the holy name, its devotees, they're all so sweet. And if we open our heart like we learned from Yamuna Devi today, then we can truly, truly experience that bhakti. And Rupa Goswami says that bhukti mukti spriha yavat pishachi hriday vartate tavad bhakti sukasyatra katham abhyudayo bhave. That till we have the witches of bhukti and mukti, that is sense gratification and mukti even, but like impersonal liberation. Until then, we will not experience the sunlight, the rising sunlight of bhakti, the happiness of rising sunlight of bhakti. So I would just like to try and encourage the devotees and indirectly encourage myself to take more shelter of these great personalities and open our hearts to them, because they are our only way back. We give them way into our hearts, but they give us way to Krishna. That's a very simple philosophy. So I would like to conclude by saying, Yad atra skalitam kinchid vidvam sahapurayantu tad Yad atra shaushthavam kinchid tad guror eva me nahi. Yad atra skalitam kinchid. If you found anything today that was improper or incorrect, vidvam saha, you are all very learned devotees. Purayantu tad. Please complete my mistakes. But yad atra shaushthavam kinchid. If you found anything that was nourishing, anything that was right, anything that touched your heart, remember one thing, dear devotees, that tad gurur, it belongs to my guru, me nahi, not to me. And I would really emphasize that it does belong to my guru. I was a rascal lost in this material world, but my spiritual master forced me. He held me by my sika. That's what the sika is for. He held me by the sika and he dragged me towards his lotus feet. This is the unlimited mercy of my spiritual master, and I can never be grateful enough. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a beautiful and enlightening class, explaining so nicely, starting with Bharat Maharaj's story and very nicely quoting the Vishvanath Chakravarti verse and explaining so beautifully about the Kirtan and with giving so beautiful examples of Draupadi Devi, Gajendra Moksha and Ajamil. And when you are explaining about the Draupadi Devi, gave the detailed explanation about Anada. That was also so nice point. I liked it. And I like the thing is like about that you are talking about the two birds, which I never heard about that in our body. That was also very nice point, Prabhuji, and explaining so your realization about the Srimad Bhagwatam, that 2 points, that was very nice, Prabhuji. And
Hari Suri's realizations, it can only come from a Rasika devotee like himself.
Thank you for sharing with us that, Prabhuji. We are so thankful for that. And explaining about that chanting so very nicely. We should not be too fast and too slow. That was also very nice. And concluding with that Chaitanya Charitamritam shloka. That was very nice, the relation between the two shlokas. Thank you, Prabhuji. We are so thankful for everything, for your time and association. So, Prabhuji, do you have some time for the questions from the devotees?
Of course, Manaji. I must say that I'm not qualified to answer questions. I'll just try to repeat whatever I've heard. So, yes. So please ask at your own risk.
Yeah. So now I request Varun Prabhuji, you can please go ahead with your question, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So thank you, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful class, Prabhuji. You said about you said we should learn the art of crying for Krishna. So, Prabhuji, my question is that how to learn that art, because at the initial stages we might face some difficulty, so it won't come from inside. So how to learn that art to cry for Krishna?
So yeah, you asked that how do we learn the art to cry for Krishna? To be honest, I am myself seeking these answers of how do we learn the art to cry for Krishna. But one thing is for sure, that we can see the people who are crying for Krishna. We can see our spiritual masters. We can see all our acharyas coming down in our disciplic succession. And if we follow what they have given us, and if we chant with sincerity, automatically we will start crying for Krishna. Prabhupada said that sincerity comes from sincerity. So if we show that sincerity towards the process, it's a narrow process. It's not too complicated. They say it's simple for the simple and complicated for the complicated. So we can try and get entangled in all these different doubts, or we can follow in the footsteps of our previous acharyas, because they have so graciously shown us how to practice. So personally, I wouldn't even know myself the art of crying, but I know that if I follow in the footsteps of my Guru Maharaj, and he's following in the footsteps of his Guru Maharaj, and like that we go all the way up to our Param Guru Srimati Radharani, who is constantly crying for Krishna, then someday we will cry for Krishna. That's where I'm coming.
Thank you.
I hope it's satisfactory.
Yes. Thank you, Pradeep, very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We have one question in the chat. Please define prarabdha and sanchita karma.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So please define prarabdha karma and sanchita karma. So there's actually three types of karmas that we accumulate. Sanchita karma is something that we accumulate in all our different lives, like millions of Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavanji. We are going through so many different lifetimes, and we're accumulating a lot of karma. So the complete warehouse, to visualize this, the complete warehouse of our karma is known as Sanchita karma. And from that warehouse, when we remove a few things to go and sell in the shop, so similarly, when we remove those few karmas that we have to experience in our particular life, that is called prarabdha karma. And the third type of karma is called kriyamana karma. That is when a person performs a particular activity in his existing life, and that karma also either gets added to his sanchita karma or his prarabdha karma. For example, if a person commits a crime, like he commits murder or something like that, the justice system can either hang him in that very lifetime, so that karma which he incurred for murdering someone, he gets the kriyamana karma in his prarabdha karma in that same very lifetime. But if it goes into a sanchita karma, sometimes people are not punished for their wrongdoings, then it goes into their sanchita karma, because there's a reaction for every activity that we do. So they experience that in their future lives. And yeah, so that's the basic, at least simple understanding of these three types of karmas.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So I request any other devotees, if you have any other questions, you can please go ahead.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the class. I had one question. I don't know if I had understood you properly when you were talking about revealing our heart to the Guru so that we can advance. And it sounded as if you were also saying that it's better to, it seemed like you were kind of discouraging us from revealing our heart to Krishna / Super Soul in the heart, because it's like, why would we want to show him that we should do that with our Guru Varga, So I just had a doubt about that because, we're instructed that Krishna, in the form of Super Soul, in our heart is our dearmost friend. So why should we be discouraged from revealing our heart to him as well? Not instead of Guru Varga, but in addition to. So if you could clarify that point for me.
Yes. So Mataji, your question was that if we should only to express our hearts to the Guru and not to Krishna, if that's what I was trying to say. So no, I was not trying to say that. Thing is that Guru is our direct connection to Krishna, and when Krishna acknowledges us, he sends us a Guru because he Sarvasya Cham Hridishani Vishnu is seated in our hearts. And when we have that interest to perform bhakti, he sends us a spiritual master. And of course, we have so many difficulties in our sadhana, and to tackle those questions, we obviously have to be very honest with ourselves. So one honesty is that we are very much clear. Krishna knows how we are and we know how we are, but sometimes we need help from the outside as well. And Krishna in the Super Soul, just not to mix that up, he helps that help come from the outside too, in the form of Guru, in the form of Shastra, in the form of other devotees as well. There's Shiksha Gurus and there's Diksha Gurus. Like I take inspiration from my Guru, I take inspiration from my Shikshas as well. So via all these mediums and Krishna seated in the heart, we are able to be guided in the right manner. And when we need to be guided, we also need to open our hearts. Like sometimes when I need to ask a particular question to someone, if I need to clarify, I will ask. If I don't ask, maybe Krishna through the heart will make me get the answer while listening to some class or something like that. But sometimes if you have an eager heart and you want to know right away, you just go and call your Shiksha Guru or whoever, your Diksha Guru or any other mentor in your life, and they inspire you right away. So it's just a question of just being honest with yourself about how the different difficulties you're facing, and to be honest with the people who are looking out for you. Yeah.
Including Krishna in the heart.
Including 100%. Krishna is our life and soul. Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarification.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, we had one more question in the chat. Would you like me to read that question, Prabhuji?
Please, Maharaj, yes.
This question is from Ram Gopal Prabhuji. Why many devotees of Lord worship through the word like Hanuman, Shiva and Radharani? Why Narada ji has not same position, although he has done many services to the Lord?
Can you please repeat that? Why do people worship Narada? Sorry, why do people worship Shiva, Radha,
Hanuman,
but not? Okay.
Why Narada ji has not same position, although he has done many services to the Lord?
Well, for us, we understand that Srimad Bhagwatam, not everyone stumbles upon it. The world today is very lucky that Ramayana is very famous. Like nowadays, I keep seeing on my social media that in Indonesia, most of the country accepts Ramayana and its philosophy. So Ramayana is very famous. Lord Shiva is very famous because even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Kangshanta karmanam siddhim, no, yajanti iha devata, shipram mi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. That the demigods very easily, they give benedictions. So people have this kind of an attachment because they have some material desires. So naturally, they are more famous. But for us Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Narada is in the words of my spiritual master, he's our patron saint. He is the one who is guiding us. He is the one from whom our parampara is starting as well. Like after Brahma, Narada is coming and he's inspiring us. And so many times, in fact, the whole Srimad Bhagwatam, which is the crux of our philosophy, is because Narada Muni has inspired Vedavyas to take up to writing this. So it's not that Narada is not famous. He's just famous in different circles. For us, Narada is very famous. In fact, we appreciate him everywhere. Srila Prabhupada, so many times he after ecstatic kirtans, he would say, "Oh, did you see? Did you see? Did you see Narada Muni was dancing with us?" Prabhupada saw, because Narada Muni is actually, he's with this ISKCON movement. This movement, it's an ISKCON movement, it's moving forward, and Narada Muni is with us. He's giving us the Shakti. When we're praying to our Guru Parampara, it's not that we're not praying to Narada Muni. We are praying to Narada Muni. So yes, he is famous. He's very famous. He's famous in all the three worlds. What to speak of planet Earth? Planet Earth is like I said today, teensy, weensy little planet. It's okay if he's not famous in a few places there.
Very nice answer, Prabhuji.
I think there's one more question that just came up, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. It's from the Vivek Prabhu. How to identify the deer in our lives and stay focused in Krishna consciousness in spite of many distractions with the modern technology in this precious time?
Yeah, that's a very nice question. Actually, I had two directions to go with this class. One direction was this, that how to relate to the deer, you know, and my Guru Maharaj oftentimes gives the example of how the deer, it's always worried, like it was described today in the translation. It's always looking around, it's scared, and it's always has the survival instincts, right? Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithunam. Just these four activities are what it's indulged in. And sometimes, especially in the musk deer, we see that the musk deer it has a scent in its navel, and that scent is so intoxicating that the musk deer is oftentimes trying to find the source of the scent. And in order to find the source of the scent, it's going in all these different directions, trying to find it, not realizing that it's actually within him, you know? And we also hear how sometimes a deer, it gets so much attracted to the reflection of itself on the river or on the lake that the material energy or the lion comes and eats it. So there's these two understandings from the deer. One is that we have that spiritual spark in us. Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishna Nityadas. We can eternally be happy and content as servants of Krishna. But if we get attracted to this reflection in the water, which is not true, which is a distraction, then the material energy like lion will come and eat us. So that's one understanding, at least from the deer in our lives.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. That was very helpful. Very good.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And we have one more hand raised. Would you like to take that question, Prabhuji?
Sure. I think it's Kirtida Sundari Mataji who helped organize this program. Yes. Thank you so much again, Mataji.
Mataji, you can please unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Danvat Pranam. Glory Srila Prabhupada. What a fantastic class, Prabhu. Speechless. Very, very nice class. And I'm so glad that Hari Parshad Prabhu recommended you, and you got this opportunity by the mercy of your Diksha Guru and of course your Shiksha Guru as Hari Parshad Prabhu. And I could see the reflection of Hari Parshad Prabhu's sessions in your session too. So, really grateful to you and your Gurudev, and of course to Hari Parshad Prabhu for training you so nicely. So thank you, Prabhu, and we really look forward for more of your sessions. So please bless us with your association in future also. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think it's a blessing coming from y'all that you're like giving me this opportunity with which I can actually purify myself. So it's all of you that are doing me a service. I'm so sorry but I'm benefiting more from all of this. So thank you so much for enlivening me today and giving me this time and opportunity to be a part of the Sangha. It was so sweet.
Thank you, Prabhu. And we are blessed to have you as a part of our Sangha. Looking forward for more of your nectarian classes. Thank you so much for your association.
I think Tiffany Mataji was trying to say something.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Yes.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, I'm sorry. I just have one more question that someone has sent and asked me to ask you.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. So the question is, chanting will only destroy prarabdha karma and sanchit karma also, the unmanifest action. Okay.
Yes, it destroys everything. It's the most glorious. Yeah, it's the most glorious.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji. And thank you for such a beautiful and inspiring class. There were so many moments where I just felt enlivened. I'm so grateful, and I hope that you come back to us again soon.
Yeah. Whenever I experience these moments, I will try and share the same with all of you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
If nobody have any other questions, we can end the call here.
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes. Yes, Mataji.
If I want to hear this lecture again, I missed some of it. Can a person hear it again?
Yes, Mataji. We'll share the link in our Bhakti Sangha groups, and yeah, Mataji already shared the link in the chat. You can YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kartamashi. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful to hear all these realizations from you. And thank you so much, Prabhu, for quoting Shastra so nicely and explaining word by word, which is the most bona fide way of explaining Shastra. And, we heard, although I've read Hari Suri, but to hear it from you made it so much more relishable. And we heard the reason why Yamuna gave way to Vasudeva, Krishna and Balaram when they approached Yamuna. But maybe next time when you come, I want to hear from your mouth why Yamuna again gave way when Vasudeva was coming back and crossing the river.
So much to look forward to, Haripashapu, and thank you so much again.
Thank you.
I'm also a product of your blessings. Hare Krishna.
Okay. I'm merely a servant of the Vaishnavas, and I'm very happy to facilitate any Vaishnav in any capacity possible. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, once again for such an enlightening class. We are so grateful to you. We look forward for your association in future. Let's pay our obeisances to Prabhuji. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Granta Srimad Bhagwatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Grace Kadam Rishi Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.